So our topic this afternoon is stop wasting your marketing dollars.
Yes.
And our speaker is an engaging entrepreneur, a strategy expert, and she's the president of Studio Pinpoint Consulting, and she's known for her integrity-based, results-driven approach. She draws from more than 20 years of marketing expertise to cleverly demystify brands and build strategies that accelerate growth and profits. She founded Studio Pinpoint, a business and brand strategy firm, in 2007 and launched her successful brand guide for business on brandmarketingplan.com earlier this year. She is known for bringing clarity where there is chaos and confidence where there is uncertainty, ensuring that your business's success can never be compromised. Please help me welcome Romana Mirza.
There's 6 steps in defining your brand. First, what you do is you lay the foundation for your brand with your words, okay? So we all have a vocabulary that we use all the time. And it's when you start to expand that vocabulary that you start to create some more richness in your brand. So let me give you an example. When I started to do Studio Pinpoint's word chart for myself to understand what kind of name I wanted to give my company, the way that the exercise works is you write down all the words that you typically use when you're talking to people about your business in the far left-hand corner, which is the root word. This is where you write down all the words that you say. So you might say, you know, we're very innovative, or we're service-oriented, or we concentrate on creative professionals. One word that I always used was calibrate. I don't know where I got that word from, maybe because my dad's an engineer, but I would always talk about calibrating, finding that balance in an organization of, you know, how to define who they are and present that in how they talk about themselves to the outside world. We create this calibration. And so I wrote calibrate down in the root word column. And then the rest of the exercise is to sit and kind of meditate on that word and just think about what that word means to you. Why did you choose that word calibrate? And so I started meditating on the word calibrate, and I thought, well, it's balance, and you get to accuracy, and the other thing it means is it really pinpoints the message. And as soon as I wrote down the word pinpoint, I knew the name of my company. And so my vocabulary was limited to what my background is. I've worked in engineering and architectural firms, I've worked with interior designers, and a lot of companies having to do with manufacturing, design, and style. And so my vocabulary is limited to those worlds. Calibrate's not a word that you really use every day, but something like pinpoint can really resonate with a larger mass audience. So expanding your vocabulary is really important. It helps you to understand really what it is that you're talking about. The second step in developing your brand and understanding who you are is actually researching the environment and landscape in which you're building your business. This is something that I see even large corporations not doing, and it just boggles my mind. How can you go out there, invest all of your time and energy and money into a space to create something when you don't even know what the environment and landscape is? So if we take the analogy of building a house or a structure, you need to know if there are strong northwesterly winds in that part of that land, because you're going to design your structure to accommodate that. You need to know if there's an impact of floodwaters, you know, on that piece of land. You have to know the environment and landscape in which you're building. Now, there's 2 ways of researching that for your business. One is to find out what people think of you, and the other is your competitive research. And so a lot of you have established businesses, and you can go back to the people that you've worked with to get their perception on what they think of you. And some of you may not have that. And what I want to suggest here is, for those of you who don't have that, you go and talk to the people who've actually experienced you, whether in a sales capacity or otherwise, and ask them what it was that delighted them about working with you and what it was that you may have been missing. Get an understanding of how people perceive you. And on the competitive landscape side, go out and read about your competition. Learn their tone of voice. It will shock you when you've identified 2 competitors and you just go to their About Us pages on their websites, how different the tone of voice can be. And what you learn about how people perceive you and how others put themselves out into the world will identify for you the places where you shine. So really understand your competitive marketplace, understand the landscape and the environment, in which you're building your business. What you've done now is you've started collecting a lot of research, and the third step is to start designing the structure of your brand by defining how you can set yourself apart. So this is about taking all the research you've gleaned from what people think of you and what your competitors are, their tone of voice, how do they present themselves to the world, what opportunities are they missing where you can shine, and you start to pull out your findings from that. So your research findings is the place where you have all of your aha moments, right? So you've got an opportunity now to glean through all of that information and highlight the areas where you admired other brands, where you admired what people said about you, where you felt like there were opportunities for you to fill in gaps. It's like, I know that company does that, but they're not talking about it. So there's an opportunity for you to create messaging. This is about designing the structure of who you are. And then what you do after that is, once you've collected all your findings, is you go through and you create the color and texture for your brand. And I'm not asking you all to become graphic designers and design logos. The color and texture of your brand is really about personality. And this takes me to a story that I really wanted to tell you guys about today, because it was on the email notice. But this is about Tony Shea. Did you see Tony Shea's presentation at eWomen? He was kind of near the end of the program. Oh yeah, Anna was there. All the eWomen conference people are sitting up together.
He was amazing.
He was really amazing. And when they were introducing him to come out onto the stage, they said, Tony Shea's had this long laundry list of accomplishments, and one of the biggest accomplishments that he'd had in his career was that he built up a company and sold it to Microsoft for $256 million. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment, major thing. And he came out on a stage in jeans, in the humble kind of way that he operates, and said, yeah, I did that, but they didn't tell you why. I had to do that. And we were like, oh. And he said, I started this company, internet advertising, I think it was, and I was working in it, I was getting busy, so I hired my buddy. And then we got busy, so we hired our friends. And then that bigger group got busy, and so we hired friends of friends. And that group got busy, and we started hiring people we don't know. And all of a sudden, one day, I woke up, and I didn't like going to work. I hated the culture of my company that I built. Could you guys imagine, with your own two hands, and what you have here, and all the courage that it takes to build an organization like that and wake up one day and not want to go to work? He didn't see selling his company for $256 million as an accomplishment. He saw it as a failure. Something that he put his blood, sweat, and tears into, and it was all gone because he didn't like going to work. So when I saw him later on that day at the conference, I said, Tony, if you had done with your internet ad company what you did with Zappos from the first day that you started your internet ad company, would you have lost the company? He's like, no, I wouldn't have lost it. Because what he talked about there was culture is your brand. Your values and the things that you're about, the people, the things that, the way people perceive you, what you value and what you stand for is reflected in your company and is honored in the people that you hired and the kind of vendors that you hire. That keeps that consistent culture going. And people know what it's all about. People know what they're buying. And you don't lose control of the culture. The culture is your brand. And he had no control. That whole adding the color and texture from all of your findings, getting your aha moments, and knowing what your personality traits are, that's really the color and texture of your brand. Are you a worldly, exciting, and fun company, or are you meaningful, approachable, and skilled? Both are great, but both exude a different color palette, a different tone of voice, a different kind of design, a different kind of an employee who's going to work for you, or a different kind of vendor who's going to service your business. And then the fifth step is to continue to build your brand around 4 other key elements. One is the personality, which you've done in the color and texture phase, defining what that is. And then the other 4 are defining your brand essence, which is the underlying truth of who you are. No matter what, you can't change that. It's your DNA. One client I worked with, their underlying truth is transcending the usual. No matter how hard she tried, the owner of this company couldn't not be different. It was just the way she is. So it's understanding the underlying truth of who you are, understanding your essence. What is your brand promise? Every day as you live and breathe your work and your organization, as you take a step out into the world, what promise are you making? And make it aspirational. What is your brand positioning? And you're going to understand what that is automatically once you start doing the research. You're going to say, there's a gap here. I'm strong in this. This is what my positioning should be. It's a 1 or 2 sentence statement that tells people who you are and what you do. And the 6th and last step in understanding who you are is to take a step back. When you've created all of this information, when you've done all of the research, when you've defined your personality, take a step back from it all. Maybe take a break from the work, for a few weeks. And ensure that what you've done is singular, that it's believable, that it's ownable, and that it's relevant. So that it's relevant to your market, that you alone can own it, that people can actually believe that you can make that claim because you've got methodologies or reputation to support that. And take a step back and make sure that it's in alignment with who you are. How are we doing with the last 5?
We need to wrap up.
Okay. All right, so that's the 6-step process. Yeah. And the questions are in here. Yeah, it tells you the questions.
Exactly.